Welcome, everybody, to the European Business Process Management Round Table at the University of Liechtenstein. It's our great pleasure to host this event, and I'm very grateful to see all of you coming here to our university and to discuss this important topic on business process management, how to drive innovation in a digital world. The overall idea of the European Business Process Management Round Table is exactly to bring together both worlds, the academic world and the business world, and to provide a platform for exchange and discussion. And this idea goes back to Wil van der Aalst and Hajo Reyes, who are here. And I would like to recognize that you founded this event last year and you organized and conducted it for the first time at the University of Eindhoven last year. And we are very happy that we managed to bring this event to Liechtenstein now, because Liechtenstein certainly is a place where you can really feel exactly this notion and this DNA of bringing together academia and business. And I hope you can also see this from the great support by industry, which we are very grateful of, that this is very much in the genes and in the vision of the European BPM Round Table. We have 173 registrations. There's probably even more people here around, from 16 different countries. And we have 11 presenters from 8 countries, and we have representatives from 46 companies. In a country with 37,000 inhabitants. But probably this tininess and this focus, which you can feel in Liechtenstein all over the place, is also kind of the ingredients for this very fast and intense cooperation. I'm very grateful for the massive support by industry. I mentioned that already, and I would very much like to recognize all our sponsors, without which it would have not been possible, definitely, to organize this event. I'm very grateful for the support by Hilti as our Platin sponsor. Hilti certainly being a very influential and important organization, not only in Liechtenstein and the Rhine Valley, but globally, world market leader in fastening technology, and a long years strategic partner of our institute. Martin Hilti was one of the founding fathers of our university also, so that goes very long back, this tradition of very good cooperation. And so I would like to recognize this first of all. But also we have wider support. We have 2 gold sponsors, the Camelot and Swarovski. Swarovski, Camelot being a thought leader and advisory consulting company when it comes to supply chain management, which is very much to the topic we are working with. And Swarovski, we may all know from this little glass-ready jewelries running their global logistics center out of Liechtenstein. In addition, we have silver sponsors, Ivoclar and MBPI. We also have bronze sponsors, Hoval and the Residence Hotel, which some of you may have enjoyed staying overnight. In addition, we also have academic sponsors, and I also would like to recognize these. This is, first of all, as I mentioned, the Eindhoven University of Technology, really being the place where this event has been evented and launched for the first time. It's also the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. It is also the Liechtenstein chapter of the Association for Information Systems, which is the association, the World Association for Information Systems Research. And last but not least, the University of Liechtenstein, which serves as a grateful host here of our event. Let me very quickly also make some comments to the topic we are discussing here today. Certainly we do have very esteemed speakers, so I don't want to take too much of their time. But probably as a personal note, comment a little bit on why we have chosen the topic as we have chosen it. Well, business process management certainly is what this roundtable is about, but we chose kind of the subtitle or the main theme for the event to be driving innovation in a digital world. And actually, this is very fascinating to us, and I hope that this fascination is also something we can share, because we strongly believe that we are at a stage where innovation is very important. IT can bring a lot to the table of innovation, but IT as such on its own will not be sufficient, but we need knowledge from business process management in order to really leverage the potential of IT to drive innovation. So let me probably very quickly comment on these essential elements, as I see it at least, and I'm happy to discuss them later with the speakers and also with the panel and the audience on what I think is important or why this is important. I think there are at least like 3 elements. It's about innovation, it's about the digital world, and it is about business process management. So innovation, I think we all would agree, is what we need, right? We need innovation to sustain our living conditions, to sustain the wealth of society and economy. And I guess this is something very typical for Europe, since we see, of course, that quite a few production-oriented and also service-oriented jobs move to other areas, which may sound negative, but I think is reality. And if we want to keep our living standards, which we enjoy that much, for ourselves, but also for our children's generation, we need to do something different, and this very much relates to innovation. Personally, there's a lot of evidence, a lot of people would say, if we don't succeed in being leaders in innovation on the planet, there might be a very sad future for Europe. And of course, we don't want to look at the sad side. We want to look into the great potential we have in terms of actually really driving innovation and proving to be successful with innovation. And here comes the good news. This is IT. There is also evidence that more than 50% of innovation nowadays, products, services, companies, business models, are essentially driven by information and communication technology. Well, that's the good news because most of us here, we are experts in using IT for innovation, using IT in operations, in business. We've seen huge changes. We are all used to the internet nowadays, but it hasn't been that long that it has been invented. Nowadays we have the internet in our pocket. We access the internet everywhere through mobile devices and tablets and whatsoever. Even today there are more things in the internet than people are, which again enables totally new scenarios. We might probably hear something about a Hilti Bohrhammer being online, submitting data and getting data from all over the world, analyzing this data by means of big data analytics algorithms, and through this information gathered, offering new services which have not been able to be offered before. So this certainly is fascinating. We see the car of the future avoiding accidents because the car knows which other cars might come to a crossroad. We also see houses doing smart energy management because they are smart in a way and sensitive to understand what sort of energy and heating and supply is really demanded in a certain situation, a certain living pattern, or in real time even. And I'm pretty convinced we will also see clothes in the future and accessories helping us to manage our personal health status by taking body data all the time and recommending us to drink a glass of water, to have a break, or to go out for a walk. I think this is all coming, and this will drive immense innovation, often referred to as the Internet of Things, for instance, Industry 4.0. There are a lot of terms out there, but I think one thing we can really see, it is driven by IT, but it is not that easy that we just take a conventional item and we add some IT, and suddenly it becomes so fascinating, but it rather takes very close analysis and understanding, and also takes a lot of creativity to come up with ideas. How can we really, what specific things can we do with IT in order to really innovate products and services to generate business value? And this is actually really not that easy. And again, the good news, however, is that the field of business process management, to our strong belief here, is the prime discipline which can really contribute to this. Because business process management has proven over the last 20 to 30 years exactly something very similar, which is to improve and innovate business processes through the use of IT. Kind of in different situations though, but baseline, there's a lot of knowledge on how to do this. And I think this is why also this attracts so many people, and this is why we are so fascinated and concerned about it, because business process management actually, to our very strong belief, is key to leverage the potential of IT in business innovation, which is so needed. But it takes two things, and that's probably the final remarks I would like to do. It takes two things. The first is we need to use business process management. And certainly there is a danger of new buzzwords coming along, and people then say, okay, look, business process management, that's what we did 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Now we're doing business transformation management, business innovation management. Now we do digital innovation whatsoever, XYZ management, because it is kind of more fresh term. I think that's okay, as long as we still build on knowledge we have accomplished over the past decades on business process management, because ultimately whatever we do will be about the processes in organizations and about enabling them to be better or innovative. So this is probably the first plea I would like to make. Be concerned also in companies. Think of all the synergies you can raise by applying the knowledge and structures you have in place already in order to tackle these issues of innovation in the digital world, compared to setting up whole new groups and qualifying your people entirely new in a way, but then ultimately having them coming back to tell you something about processes and process capabilities and innovation capabilities and culture and whatsoever, what we already have accomplished in business process management over the past decades, and which has matured. There are university programs teaching this, there are journals publishing this, there are books publishing this, some of which you can experience also here during this day. The second thing, however, last remark, I think first we need to apply BPM knowledge, but also we need to further develop it. And this is something which is probably more addressing now the academics here in the room, while the other is more addressing the practitioners. Business process management has been developed primarily for a context of, let's say, well-structured processes, probably in production, logistics, those processes which are nicely put into workflows, where you can simulate those processes ultimately ending up in ERP systems, which are great. Now, this was the context, and it was very much about efficiency, about compliance also. But now, as I illustrated, we are changing the context pretty much. We are looking into innovation processes, we are looking into processes of households, of people, personal processes, and they are so different. They don't follow the same logic. They don't follow the same institutional logic as those processes, the methods we are applying have been designed for. So there's really a serious, urgent need to further develop the methods of business process management to better suit this new context of driving innovation in a digital world. And this is why I think it's such an exciting topic, and this is also why I so much look forward to sharing thoughts with you and with this really extremely esteemed board of speakers. It's really the elite team of people in Europe and even abroad. We also have speakers from Australia here, so I very much look forward to this. At this stage, I would like to close this welcoming note and would like to hand over to Tobias Rölz, who is the representative here today from Hilti, and as our Platin sponsor, I would like to ask him to come to the stage and also give probably a short opening note to the audience as well. First of all, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jan. Is it working? Perfect. All right. Good. Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. Who has seen that red box at a construction site? Well, there are a lot. So what is typical for Hilti? What do you know about Hilti? Which products do you know? You already heard one? Borehammer, drilling hammer. Right. Anything else you've heard about? Perhaps fastening technology, yeah? Measuring device, correct. And then we also have fire protection. So we're really offering the complete range of products, starting with the measuring, then the drilling and demolition section, finally the fastening technology, and then at the end also having here the fire protection. So what do you need to know about Hilti beside, it's anyway there, beside the fact that we have 21,000 employees and we have a sales last year of 4.3 billion Swiss francs. The one thing is we are international. So we have an international team globally. We are selling to 120 countries worldwide, more than 120 countries. What else do you need to know? Besides the fact that we are the world market leader for the professional construction industry, we also have what you see here at the bottom. We have a unique selling model. We are directly selling our products to the customers. And there's usually nobody in between when we sell our products. But why the hell is now business process management so important for Hilti? And perhaps for that we go back 2019, 99, and there we had a situation where Hilti had more than 50 ERP systems deployed globally. And we had in every country, in every plant we had different systems deployed, and starting with SAP, Oracle, and ending up with BAN and whatsoever. And at this point in time, an innovation was implemented or wanted to be implemented at Hilti called fleet management, where we are managing the fleet of these nice red boxes of the tools. We are completely managing the fleet of a professional construction company. And the board wanted to implement that. And as you can imagine, that is a pretty intense project. You need to check whether the construction industry can pay the invoices, right? So that must work. Then you need to send out on a monthly basis invoices because you are renting, you are more or less renting the device. You're not paying it. So you have a contract for example, for 3 years and you're paying every month an invoice. An intensive project, right? Try to implement that in 50 ERP systems. Simply not possible. Therefore, the board decided the year 2000 to implement a global ERP system and global processes. And that was done. Today, we have more than 50 countries on a single instance SAP system. We have today, for smaller countries, SAP Business by Design. We have totally globalized our infrastructure. And with that, you today get the same global service from Hilti, whether you call in Australia, the customer service, whether you in Switzerland or Liechtenstein contact a territory sales person, an account manager, or whether later on in the US tonight or in Brazil, you go into a Hilti center and buy our products, you get the same service on the same ERP system with the same global process. And why is that so important for us? Why is that important for Hilti? Hilti is never, never, never the price leader. We are simply more expensive than our competitors. And with that, we need to deliver additional services. We need to deliver innovation at the construction site. And this innovation, you can see with the figures, we have in roughly 30 new products every year, innovative products. We have an investment of 4 to 5% of our sales into R&D, and we also have more or less roughly 10,000 innovative products. So we need to deliver additional value with our sales force at the construction site, additional services, otherwise people are not buying our products. And let us have a look on how the global IT department of Hilti can support that. And Jan already said, everybody of us has innovation in his pocket, right? The smartphone. But is that already innovation for Hilti? That has zero value for Hilti at the beginning. Zero. But if we implement, for example, and that's what we've done, innovative mobile apps for our sales force, so that the sales force can serve our customers in a better manner and with that do the with that improve the sales process to another level. That is real value. And that's what we do with global process management, that we have a look on the process and improve the process with innovative IT solutions. Another example is that we have implemented Hilti Online, a new Hilti Online available for smartphones, tablets, and the user PC globally in less than 1 year, based on the same ERP system, fully connected, fully integrated. Imagine that without having a global process management, without having a global ERP system, it was simply not possible. And that's the biggest value we as IT can create when we really have a look on the processes and put innovative solutions in. We have a lot of other examples. Office 365, the same. If you look to Lync as a video conference system, that does not provide any value if you're not embedding that into certain processes. We have a lot of more really good examples at our booth, so I would like to invite you later on. We have really specialists from our global IT team. We have even the project manager of the Global Process Management System 2.0, which we just recently implemented, so she also can tell you more about how we have done the implementation and how we also, on a continuous basis now, develop our global process management, and with that, finally, drive innovation in the digital world. So once again, visit our booth, and I all wish you now a good conference, and we're really proud on sponsoring the event today. Have fun and enjoy the presentations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tobias. I'm now very proud to announce the keynote of today, which is presented by Cornelius Clauser, who is Chief Process Officer of SAP. Cornelius, would you like to take the stage already, while I would like to start reading your impressive CV to you. So, Cornelius Clauser currently serves as Chief Process Officer at SAP, as I mentioned. Important responsibility, you can imagine, overall the processes, responsible for all processes run in SAP and taking care of those processes. Pretty impressive to me. The role includes the focused improvement services for processes and roles, as well as provisioning the process infrastructure, such as process map of idea management, right? So coming also closer to innovation, so not only maintaining the processes which are already there, but also implementing new ideas. He joined SAP in 2011, initially in charge of the productivity and lean team. Prior to SAP, he spent 9 years with Porsche Consulting, where he served as partner in charge of Porsche and Volkswagen, internal improvements, as well as, e.g., machinery, healthcare, knowledge worker, productivity, or office concepts. And prior to Porsche Consulting, he spent 5 years with McKinsey & Company, primarily in the automotive industry, working for OEMs and suppliers in all trade regions. He holds a master in computer science and an MBA attended in Mannheim, Los Angeles, and Manila. I'm very grateful you are here, and I'm very interested and excited to attend your keynote presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the very onerous introduction. So I did not know that you would read the CV to the audience, but okay. I would like to live up to the sort of suspense you created and give you my perspective on the topic of process management in a global software company. And sort of by intent, I chose this picture for the title page. Yeah. And my question on this is this the vision? Yeah? Are we shooting for a control room for your processes where you can sit there and steer the company and then say, okay, I press this button and then here a green light flashes up and so on and so forth? And the reason I wanted to post this as an opening question is because in a lot of discussions I have the impression that many people see that as the vision. Yeah? But for me, it misses the point. Yeah, and I would like to sort of talk about why that is and what our experience is in the 20 minutes I have. Yeah. So you can be assured that SAP, of course, is a very tool-happy company. Yeah. So all kinds of electronical trends, predictive analytics, event-based monitoring, big data, mobile enablement, social collaboration platforms, reverse modeling. We do all these things. Yeah, but the question is, so what? Yeah, so what's the point? And what's the experience if you actually do it? Yeah, sort of if all the things that many people thought about, and if you really apply them, so what's the experience, what do you learn, and what do you take away from it? Yeah, so that's what I would like to talk about. But I would like to start with sort of one trivia fact of SAP. There's a number of these. This one is 74% of the world transaction revenue touches an SAP system. So whenever you buy something, independent of sort of in your private life over the internet, or as a manager in a company, or as a professor dealing with some governance agency, most likely parts of this transaction touch an SAP system. Yeah. The reason I bring it up is because for me it's an indication of the complexity sort of we have to deal with. Yeah, so if you want to not only serve one market, one sort of customers, but sort of every type of industry, we categorize them into 26 different industries. But sort of deeper down in the technology stack, of course, you want some reuse on the database and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to go in, and the challenge we gave ourselves is complex. The reason I bring it up is SAP probably is a good example and a bad example at the same time to look at. Yeah, it's a bad example because we are definitely not a representative challenge. Not a lot of companies have the same issues we have because we are specific in the sense no physical product, lots of people, very complex systems, so it's a bit of a strange thing. It might nonetheless be worthwhile to look at it because you could also say sort of we are what is left after you have automated everything. Yeah, so if all the automation works and all these things, some companies might up in the same, or in at least sort of in some dimensions a comparable situation that we currently have, and so maybe it's worthwhile to look at it and say, okay, what actually did you take away from it? So as said, I don't want to go into details of tools and technology, but I would like to give you sort of our experience and our lessons learned with the introduction or with the work on process management. And I have structured it into 5 points that I would like to go through. The first one is, for us, it is about creativity of knowledge workers, not about repetitive administration. What I mean with that is SAP, basically you can say, is divided into 4 main blocks. Yeah, we build software, we sell and implement the software, we run the software, and we have a thin corporate layer. Yeah. So in essence, less than 10% of our employees work in repetitive administrative functions. Yeah, we have nobody, of course, in production, but less than 10% in classical administration things. So it is very clear, if process management only deals with predictable administrative tasks, it will not have an effect on the profitability, for example, of our company. So only if it provides answers to creative knowledge workers, then it is relevant for us. And what's different with knowledge workers is you cannot count the output. The second, it is very hard to predict how long it will take, and it very much depends on who actually does it as an individual person. And thirdly, the typical knowledge worker is not spending 100% of his working day on the same process. Yeah, so you must respect the fact that they have 20 things going on at the same time, and again, if your methodology and your concepts don't reflect that, they're not relevant for us. Second point I would like to make is we are looking for something that supports our strategy, and we are not looking for the adoption of methods. Yeah, so we don't do process management to do process management, but we see it as a tool that helps us achieve business goals. So the question often asked is, okay, what's the impact of process management? And again, I think that's not the right question to ask, or that's not the perspective we take. Yeah? One example, I have a watch that measures my heart rate, calculates the calories consumed, and so on and so forth. Yeah? And then you can say, okay, what's the impact of that? It's hard to say. Yeah? So if your objective is to say, I want to lose weight, then it's essential. But if your objective is giving better presentations, the impact is zero. And that's the same for process management. Yeah? So also there, it depends on the question. Yeah? Sort of our strategy and objectives, we have 4. The first one is customer success, second employee engagement, third one is revenue growth, and the fourth one is margin expansion. So we are looking at process management with the perspective on which of these 4 do we expect a contribution by this, and not the other way around. My third point is relevance, not standardization. So what I mean by that is we are not standardizing the methodology across the whole company and say this is the general main framework for SAP, and then try to translate that into the different units. We do it the other way around. As I said, we have 4 main blocks. We build software, we sell it, and we run it, and we have a corporate function layer. So it's not about how can we combine the 4, but it's rather in which aspects does process management help, for example, building software to achieve the business objectives. And to give you an example around the development context, there are 2 issues we are trying to address. The first one is the management perspective, and sort of in short words, the management perspective was it takes us longer and longer to create less and less additional output. Yeah, and the second one is the employee perspective, and the employee perspective of a developer is I have more and more meetings, so I have less and less time to actually program something. And again, if process management does not help us fix both of these, it's not relevant. Yeah, and sort of these challenges are different in, for example, the selling or in the running part, but it doesn't make sense to now say, okay, we do the same what we did in development also in our support area, because that doesn't help. And just to give you some indications, so what we did for the management perspective, we started looking at what we call the development window. Yeah? So you take out all the specification phases and you take out all the testing validation phases, and you look at, okay, which share of the overall length is actually spent creating new functionality and how to expand this. Yeah? And if you talk about the employee perspective, what we did is we started with looking at, so what's the task distribution of a developer between Monday morning and Friday afternoon, and which part of that is actually devoted to creating functionality. And if you improve on both of these, sort of it's a multiplier to your output. Yeah? So if you are able to double the portion of your development window, and if you're able to double the value-adding share of the week, then you have 4 times the output created. Yeah? If you can quantify it exactly like this, it doesn't really matter, but it should be that way. My fourth one is pull of services, not governance. Yeah? So the most frequently quoted success factor for process management typically is top management support. Yeah, but the question is, okay, if we are all convinced that it's a win-win thing to do, yeah, it's better for the company because it creates better results, and it's better for the employee because it's easier to work with new processes that are streamlined, where the interfaces are clear, and so on and so forth. Why do I need to push it? Yeah, and I think it is because what you are trying to push is not translated to the use case good enough. If you're context relevant and if you can explain, okay, before you worked like this, afterwards you will work like this, and people understand it and it's relevant, then it shouldn't need a push. Yeah, so the way we set up the process management team at SAP, we say it's 80% service, 20% governance. Service means if there's no customer, we don't do it. You need a thin layer of governance, like a company-wide process framework and so on and so forth to make sure that sort of the puzzle fits together, but it should be as thin as possible. And my final fifth point is sustainable change, not quick penetration. What I mean by this is oftentimes when you look at introductions of this, the project plan looks like first there's a communication wave, then there's an education wave, and then there's the documentation of all processes. That looks very quick on paper, but if you imagine you are one person working in one department, until something really changes in your daily life, it takes forever. So what we are trying to do is, we try to do it the other way around and say, first we spend as much time as necessary to create a one-off example, so that we are able to describe how was it before, how is it afterwards, and once we have proven that that works, we roll out as quickly as possible. Yeah, so if you can't prove that it works on one, why would you scale it to thousands? Yeah. And if you do the same, but if you look at the sort of communication, education, documentation, and then sort of method application, if you look at that approach, it's different. Yeah, you educate people on things where it's not clear what they should do with it afterwards. Yeah. So with these 5 topics, I hope I gave you a bit of insight into what we do, what we feel we learned from it. I hope that some of it were things to think about. Maybe some of them are controversial and you violently disagree, but I think that's the idea of a conference, to start with some of these thoughts, and I wish you a very fruitful and entertaining discussion today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Cornelius Clauser, for this inspiring and well-said keynote presentation. We now have the opportunity to have like 2 to 3 questions from the audience. So I'd like to hand over to you guys. Is there any particular thing which drives you, which you would like to ask to Cornelius here? Okay, Hayo.
Thank you for your keynote. It was very inspiring to hear. I was wondering, you were telling about the vision of the process to manage your organization completely. Could you tell a little bit? Oh, I'm sorry. Shall I do this? They're on. Okay. Could I ask you whether there is also a transfer of the way you think about processes towards the technology that SAP itself develops? So can you see the process coming back in your tools, in your happy tools, if I may say so?
Yes, I think there are two parts to the answer. The first one is, of course, we are in close contact with our development teams and our internal IT regarding process management tools. We apply, of course, our tools that we develop ourselves, and so that's one part of it. And the second part, also for other tools, of course, the process should help develop tools that are even better regarding customer expectations. I don't want to go into detail, but I think there are certain elements that SAP does very well, and there are certain areas that we get frequent and I think very justified feedback from the customers. And these are the things where we also look at how how does a process look like that best caters to this? Yeah. But that's a journey, it's a continuous effort. I will not say, yeah, next year all of this is fixed. But we are working on it, yes.
Thank you very much. I think Jan Mendley is next.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I clearly see your tradition in lean thinking, which you apply reflectively upon yourself, as I may interpret it, which is nice because that maybe I can follow up on some of your points in that regard. That what could be things to leave out in BPM, since you focus pretty much on contributing to goals. It effectively raises the question when you look at, let's say, classical or traditional BPM infrastructure governance structures, which would be things where you think this is overdone, we should leave this out?
I think that's a tricky question. Okay. First of all, I would be careful where to use it at all. Secondly, if you decide to use it, oftentimes I think people get carried away by the opportunities and nomenclature of BPMN and sort of length of different connotations you can use and so on and so forth, which might lead to a more precise model, but which might defeat the purpose of actually using this for business application. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to simplify when it comes to it. Yeah. So there definitely is huge value to it, but as said, it shouldn't be, or it's not a means to an end in itself. Yeah, it's like Six Sigma, I would say the same. Yeah. I think Six Sigma is a great tool for the right questions. And if you do it on the wrong questions, it's disastrous. Yeah, and I think for BPM and BPM, it's the same.
Thank you very much. Answer very close to my heart. I think, sorry, but I think here Maximilian was next, and then Michael. And okay, Jens also.
I think it's almost clarified, but my question would have been, what's the role of business process models? Is that also something that you leave out as SAP? Do you have BPMN models?
Yes, we do. They are part of the 20% governance part that I said. So we definitely use them to make sure we have sort of an overall top-down process perspective, so to say. But for example, we do not mandate the depth of documentation to the units. And so we have the SAP process map. What we manage on a global company-wide level is level 1, 2, and 3. On level 3, we have 270 processes. And for those, we have a BPM documentation. And then everything underneath that depends on the owner of the level 3 process or how deep he wants to drive it. Yeah, so, for example, in the finance area, they chose to do it very deeply. But in other areas, they stop at level 3, which is okay. And we will not mandate them to also do level 7.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Final, short and sharp question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a great speak. Going back to the theme of the conference for today, when you say 74% of all financial transactions is touching an SAP system, I think that you also then will have a unique and fantastic position because you will be acting in very many different industries. So, do you see a potential in what I would call mine digital innovations from different industries and then support the innovation in other industries? And do you actually see tools or frameworks in doing that? For example, inspiring shipping from aviation, etc.
Yes, I fully agree. I think with our 40-year experience with many of these industries, we have the unique possibility to do this transfer. All of this depends on sort of our depth of the customer understanding. So all these 26 industries also use Excel, for example. But it's the same tool and it's not reflected. And so the there sort of you probably wouldn't ask the same question. And so the way how deeply SAP systems typically integrate into the business of the customer for us should be the opportunity to do this if we are capable to understand well enough also what was part of the opening, what are the crucial elements. And not only how is it configured, but what's important, what's not important, what would be the next step, what are the things that the customer doesn't tell you, but he would appreciate if he gets it. If we are able to do this, then that opportunity exists. I think there are good examples. A current one, for example, is transferring the way airlines do ticketing to public transport. With regulatory environments changing, so if you can do the one, you can explain to the other industry what they could do and how to do it. But there are most likely there are lots and lots of other areas where we could do it. So we have no shortage of ideas. It's more, I think, an execution issue on how capable are we to deliver on those.
Thank you very much. Once again, warm applause.